set the stage. When we make changes in E12 policy, oftentimes the legislature comes back and refines those changes. And so I look at all these bills today as a further refinement of really the good work that was done last year when it came to E12 funding. And this bill is in that very spirit. Each year changes are made to E12 funding, and a lot of times those changes recognize the changing nature of life in Minnesota here. And after a long campaign, probably a decade long, school districts in the 7-county metro area were able to adjust the formula to recognize that it costs more money to live, work, and provide services in an urban area. And I think we probably all recognize that. And members, the bill I bring to you today realizes that regional centers have a similar problem. And vital regional centers are very important to our state. And as policymakers, we should not be satisfied with policies that continue to attract people from outstate to the Twin Cities. And it's interesting, if you look at a map of the US, and if you study it carefully, you'll notice that most states have a great deal more in the way of vital regional centers than we do in Minnesota. So in Minnesota, if we're to have jobs and economic opportunities in every section of the state, it must then advance policies that promote growth across the state. And the best way for a state to grow, everyone in this room knows, is through education. And so let's face the facts. It does cost more money to provide education in areas where the price of housing, wages, services, we heard about energy, are higher. And in regional centers like Rochester, that is certainly the case. And that is also true for cities like Duluth and St. Cloud and Mankato as well. And so this bill is a very narrowly sculpted bill. It addresses the challenges of the Rochester area because it focuses on cities of the first class. And while I'm not opposed to this committee taking a broader approach that would also include other cities that have those higher costs of living, like Duluth, St. Cloud, Mankato, because the future of Minnesota will be much brighter if all of our regional centers do well. And so here to explain the design of the bill that's before you today, I offer supportive data, is Larry Smith, the business manager from the Rochester Public School System.
Thank you, Senator Nelson. Welcome, Mr. Smith.
Just some information about Rochester. The overall population of our school district is approximately 123,000 people. We serve 16,889 students in an area of 218 square miles. We have 16 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, 3 high schools, and 1 alternative high school. We currently have a minority population of approximately 35% of our students. That is growing and expected to continue to grow. We have approximately 36% of our students eligible for free and reduced price lunch. 12% of our students are English language learners, and 14% of our students receive special education services. In looking at comparative data cost of living wise, Rochester may be less expensive than some of the metro area districts, but it's also more expensive than some other metro area communities. Comparing, for example, Robbinsdale and North St. Paul, they're 1% cheaper than Rochester Public Schools, or Rochester for cost of living, with utilities being the primary difference in cost factor there. Bloomington and Burnsville are 6% more expensive than Rochester, with housing being the biggest factor in the cost of living difference. However, utilities, transportation, and health are more expensive in Rochester than Bloomington or Burnsville. Comparing with Elk River, Elk River is 3% more expensive than Rochester, with food being the biggest factor in the cost of living difference, where utilities and transportation are more expensive in Rochester. Looking at Maplewood, Maplewood is 3% more expensive than Rochester, again with food being the primary difference in the cost of living factor. However, utilities, transportation, and health costs are more expensive than Rochester. Looking Looking at Egan, Egan is 9% more expensive than Rochester, with housing being the biggest factor in the difference in cost of living. Again, utilities, transportation, and health costs are more expensive in Rochester. I recently attended a continuing education opportunity for government finance officers, where they shared information on the unsubsidized premiums for the MNsure health insurance, comparing Area 1, which is southeast Minnesota, including Rochester, against Area 8, which includes the metropolitan counties, looking at the 4 different levels of family coverage, again, for unsubsidized premiums. In Area 1, which includes Rochester, the bronze level premium for a family is $760. The metro area premium is $380, so Rochester is twice the cost. Looking at the silver level, Area 1, including Rochester, is $956 versus $565 for Area 8. The gold level, $1,058 versus $594 for the metro area. And the platinum level, $1,200 versus $634 for the metro area. Also, every year when we have our annual financial statement audit presented to our school board, we have some comparative data presented by the audit firm, and we use several metro area school districts as comparable for Rochester because of size. Those districts are closest in size to us. We use Bloomington, Burnsville, Elk River, Lakeville, North St. Paul, Robbinsdale, South Washington County, and Wayzata as the peer group that we do some comparison data analysis with. Using 2012, which was the most recent year we had comparative data available to us, the cost of administration and support services in Rochester is $878 per pupil versus $804 for our peer group and $823 statewide average. Looking at the cost of building sites and equipment, Rochester was $880 versus our peer group of $770 per pupil and a statewide average of $802. Looking at transportation costs, Rochester's costs are $614 per pupil versus a statewide average of $608. And our community services programs, $557 per pupil in Rochester versus $551 for our peer group and $526 for statewide averages. So showing much similar need in dollars to many of our peers in the metropolitan area. Also, Rochester is, with the passing of funding at the last session for Destination Medical Center initiatives and the dollars that are going into the community for that, we've already seen increases in value of properties being sold in the downtown area of up to 20% for commercial properties. And with the continued growth in the community, we will be seeing likely similar impacts on residential housing costs in the near future. We've also had to, because we're experiencing turnover in staffing, we've done an analysis of salaries for our technology staff as well as our clerical staff. We've had to implement sizable increases in salaries for technology just to retain our staff so that we weren't continually being a training ground for somebody else, and experiencing some of those same things for our clerical staff, where we will be looking at implementing salary increases for those folks just to remain competitive. With that, I want to thank you for this opportunity and being able to share information that shows that we are in Rochester very similar to metropolitan area districts and have very similar needs.
Thank you, Mr. Smith.